Hey everybody, and welcome back to Spokane. I'm not sure what show this is because we've missed a few weeks. I think maybe it's episode 7 or so bear with me here. I apologize for missing so many weeks. We've kind of had a lot going on between the three of us. I'm getting ready to sell my house, and then, at least Simon and I for now. Gerard hopefully will join us. Moving on to some property and trying to go off-grid. So we'll be updating you on that in the very near future as my house is about to get listed. Just want to thank you guys for your patience and with the show, as you guys always have with my channel. Sometimes I'm a little bit sporadic because life comes up, but I do want to thank you for supporting our show. And we are now here live in a location in Spokane. It's called the Donut Parade. It's on Nevada, just north of Gonzaga. So we appreciate their support and letting us have the show here. And if you guys are in the Spokane area, definitely come by and check them out. Like I said, they're just north of Gonzaga on Nevada in Spokane. So I've got another camera here I'll put up periodically throughout the show so you guys can just see what's happening in the shop as we're doing the podcast. So without further ado, I do have Simon joining me again.
Hey everybody.
Gerard had some family obligations, so he couldn't join us today, but we are back, so thank you for joining us again.
You can't give me the right to be a human being. I'm born with that right. Now you can keep me from having that if you've got all the policemen and all the jobs on your side.
The first topic, Simon and I were just talking about it right before the show. I was bringing him up to speed. It's called Hoop Fest. It's a big 3-on-3 basketball tournament here in Spokane in June. This year, at the end of it, it takes the whole weekend. They shut down downtown Spokane, and then, pretty much the town is just inundated with people. All hotels are full, so it's a big event. The city makes a big production out of it. Well, on Sunday, after it was all getting wrapped up, there was a drive-by shooting on the north side of Spokane, I would say at least 10 miles outside of the downtown corridor, so nowhere near it. And that's an important detail. You'll find out in a little bit why. But my point is, it was a drive-by shooting. It happened way out of the downtown corridor, and an officer was shot as a result of the shooting when they were trying to find the shooter. He didn't die. He was covered in the hospital. But there was a press conference afterwards by the mayor and the chief of police. I'm going to go ahead and play that right now, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit afterwards.
Well, thanks for being here today to talk about an officer who was shot. We do not have a lot of details to offer right now. I'll let the chief talk about anything that he can reveal at this time. It is an ongoing investigation, but this is something that we are very upset about, obviously. This is the worst news that you can hear, that an officer has been shot. We are so lucky that this officer is being treated. He's talking, and it's serious injuries, but we're confident that he's going to be okay. This is an example to our community that our officers put their lives on the line every single day. And we have seen an uptick in drive-by shootings, an uptick in violent crime. That's why we have stood up a violent crimes task force. This violence has got to stop. We were inches away from losing an officer. And again, I got a knock on the door today about this. I'm just going to tell you, it's the worst news that a mayor could hear. It's the worst news that a police chief and his fellow officers can hear. It is, my God, the worst thing the family of an officer can hear. And let me just tell you, this has got to stop. We have got to stop resorting to violence and the shootings that we're seeing. And as a community, we need to do better. I'm going to let let Chief Meidel give you the details, but this is a sad day for our community. We just hosted an iconic event. Hoop Fest came back after 3 years. We have a lot of people from out of town here for this weekend. Thank God this didn't happen in our downtown core with thousands of people, spectators and players downtown. We are so very fortunate that this wasn't worse. But I'll let the chief talk about more details.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is all preliminary information. The investigation is still ongoing at this time. We're really at the beginning stages of this investigation. So again, just to remind everyone, this is all subject to change, but here's the information we have now. This afternoon at about 1:40, the Spokane Police Department received a report of a drive-by shooting in the area of 1600 East Garland. While officers responding to that drive-by shooting, a second report came in of a drive-by shooting occurring at 3000 North Martin. One of the first officers in the area noticed a suspect vehicle that matched one of the descriptions given by one of the complainants on the drive-by, closing rapidly on her vehicle. As a second officer responding to that scene drove past the officer in the suspect vehicle. Shots were fired from the suspect vehicle at the officer as he was driving by. That officer was wounded in the leg, in the head. The suspect vehicle then fled the scene at a rapid rate with multiple officers in pursuit of the vehicle.
So the most concerning thing to me in there, not necessarily they talked about trying to get more police, more funding and all that to help protect us, as if they really do, but the emotional appeal, and this happens with all politicians that I've seen anyways, is they don't use logic at all. We talk about that a lot on this channel. And so when she compared, like, what if this would have happened, the chaos that this would have brought if this would have happened in downtown Spokane.
Well, during Hoop Fest.
Right, yeah, during the big tournament. So let's just kind of break that down a little bit. Like, Simon, have you ever heard of, like I said, outside of, like, New York, where it's kind of all a big downtown corridor, have you ever heard of a drive-by shooting in a downtown?
No.
During a busy event? Keep in mind, we're looking for if you're doing a drive-by shooting, you're looking for an individual. You're not just going and randomly shooting people.
For the most part.
Right. I mean, right.
I would yeah, I would press the issue that most drive-by shootings are personal.
Right, yeah, they're not necessarily concerned about if they shoot someone else in the process, but they're not like just trying to shoot multiple people. They're usually going for one or two, like a target, right?
And I wouldn't doubt that there's probably just kids that do drive-bys that are just really stupid and just spray a house anyways. Like whatever that means, I don't know. I've never been in this situation. I've known people that like randomly had bullets go through their windows here and there. Actually, one of the owners of, I think it's Precision Tires down here on Sprague, lives off of Bigelow Gulch, and just randomly somebody was shooting and went through one of his windows. So, I mean,
so what happens when we have self-defense, the ability to defend ourselves, right?
Right, yeah, and you're always going to have idiots doing idiotic things. That's just the nature.
Right. Yeah, that's just human nature, right?
I guess. I don't know.
So like, get back to the story, I guess. What to me, it's just an emotional appeal. Like, the mayor is worried about, if this shooting would have happened in downtown on her watch, that would tarnish her reputation as a political figure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But then also, like, in order to get more police and get more funding for things, she's making this emotional appeal. Like we just said, it doesn't happen in downtown. Why would this shooting happen down? Let's just be logical about it. Like, first of all, if I could see if it wasn't an event, maybe the shooter's like, okay, we know this guy works at the Red Robin downtown and he gets off at 5 o'clock every Friday. When he comes out, we're gonna waste it.
Right. Well, we're assuming that like this is a personal vendetta. So.
Right. Like, if you're doing a drive-by, like, personally, I'm not gonna like go to. How am I gonna find the dude in a crowd when there's like thousands of people in there? Like, that's a hard. That's a hard drive-by. So again, to me, this is just an emotional appeal to the emotions of the public and get everyone scared, and this whole idea that government is there to protect us. And the only reason, first of all, there was no protection for the general public in this. There really weren't a threat. I mean, it was just maybe the people around the house where this drive-by shooting took place, and then in the area where the cops were trying to find them, they shot at the cops trying to get away. So that presents a danger. But I mean, other than that, it's not like there was this massive danger to the general public in Spokane. Maybe a few isolated areas, there was an elevated threat. But even then, like you said, what are the chances of just a random bullet that someone shot happening to hit me and cause if I'm in the area? It's not very high.
No, well, and the fact that it didn't this stuff isn't happening in downtown Spokane when we're having Hoop Fest shows that there is real. It's not a huge problem. Like it's not
Right.
It's nothing to be like that concerned about to where we need a bunch of more cops like sitting there watching us. Like I don't get it.
Right. Well, and one of the other things, so the officer that got shot, it didn't happen like where the drive-by happened. They were looking for the person that had a description of the vehicle. So, like the officer getting shot, like I said, it's not like this person was just driving around shooting randomly. No, they were shooting because they saw the cop and they were trying to make sure they can get away. So they're trying to shoot the cop so they can get away. Like, so again, this person was not targeting the general public.
No.
And then I guess the other aspect of it is, like you just kind of brought up this idea that cops are going to be able to protect us. We've talked about that a lot, so let's talk about it briefly right now. We all know, I mean, even right there, the drive-by shooting happened, and then the cops were called to respond to it.
Correct.
Right? They didn't call first and say, hey, I'm pretty sure in about an hour and a half there's going to be a drive-by shooting. Here's the location.
Right.
You guys come down and take care of things for us.
And even if somebody was able to pinpoint that, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't be there.
Right.
I mean,
so then it comes down to, the mayor and the chief are making this emotional appeal. They're talking about, they try to tie this into, there is an elevated violence in cities across our country right now. Violence is going up. People are experiencing tough times. So they are stealing all sorts of things to get what they think they need because society has told us all we have to have all these things.
Right. Social engineering 101.
Right? Yeah. So yes, crime has gone up, but let's be realistic about it. We've already just established that cops show up after the fact. So the mayor, instead of appealing to people to say, hey, you need to either give us more money or we need to come steal more money from you guys or the general public, maybe from the federal, the whole country, in order to be able to fund more police to keep crime down. It's an illogical appeal. It doesn't make sense. What she should be saying is, look, I encourage every resident to go out and learn how to defend themselves, whether that means setting up booby traps in your house, if you feel comfortable purchasing a weapon and training yourself into how to effectively use that and use that for self-defense, however that means, maybe organizing a neighborhood watch program. I don't know. That's up to each individual.
Right.
But instead of her encouraging us to give up our self-defense to them who can't do it, who can't defend us, she should be encouraging us to actually defend ourselves. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the fact that we think we're adults and we're lending all of our power to another quote unquote adult to take care of things for us, and we're forcing everybody into a hive mind. So a small majority of people want police and think police are there to do all these different things, whatever word you want to put in there. The fact is, they show up after the crime is committed. Sometimes they don't even show up to take a police report on a stolen car. It's just like you call crime check. They're like, okay, here's your police report, and they never find the car. Like, it's not like NCIS on TV. Like, it's just not even close to that. And the fact that our money's being taken to provide that kind of service is, I mean, it's not viable either. And the reason why crime's going up is because everything else is going up. There's like the state that provides no services, nothing. The only service they provide is shitty ass water that we probably shouldn't be drinking. They can't even get rid of our poop correctly. And it's right next to a river. Like, who would have thought? Like, these aren't smart people, obviously. I mean, the infrastructure is falling apart. We can't keep our roads going. So now you want to spend more money on policing, which basically they only make money through tickets. They don't make money like actual quote crime, where there's an actual victim. Like, the state's always the victim. So I mean, it's a illogical fallacy. It's just, it doesn't work. And the money that the state is taking from us, we could be going into private projects of like feeding the homeless. I don't know, sheltering the homeless, maybe helping them get a job if that's what they want. I mean, the possibilities are endless on the money that is spent are gathered from the state and thrown around. We have no transparency where that money goes. So like, if you want your community to be a certain way, you need to take that money and spend it in the proper ways you want to spend it, not what Nadine Woodward says.
Right.
That was my rant. Sorry.
Right? No, what you brought up there as far as like us having to give up our resources to the corporation of Spokane to defend ourselves, you're right. Like, first of all, when you look at government, they're completely inefficient. Anything government does, if it's done in the private industry, can done, I've got just a ballpark figure here, half as much. Just throwing that out there easily, I would say that.
Yeah, half the price and probably
and much quicker.
And the job's done better. What if customer service is better?
Right. Yeah, because they have to
competition. That's why.
Right.
That's why you're supposed to have a free market, because there's competition. So your quality goes up, your price goes down, the efficiency is way better.
So yeah, to relate that to like police, one of the things since I've had this channel, people bring up, well, what would we do if we didn't have police? Well, like, let's just kind of back up here, just as a solutions aspect here. Like, I'm not against some of the things that police do, like a detective, for example, like a drive-by shooting that needs to be investigated. Who is this person that shot someone else? We need to figure that out.
Correct.
But that doesn't involve having 90% of the police force out there patrolling and trying to threaten violence against us for crimes that have no victim other than the state, which can't be a victim. Right. So the way I see it is there could still be a police force. Like Gerard has said, it should be voluntary. Like, I shouldn't have to pay for any of it unless I choose to.
Right.
But that would kind of make it like a private investigator, right? Like, if I got robbed, instead of going to the police, and they've already being paid for because you paid for them against your will, I could go to a private investigator and say, hey, someone stole my lawnmower from me. How much would it cost to have you track it down? Right. And he or she would say, oh, it's going to cost, maybe $250. And then I could make a decision to say, okay, I'm either going to go buy a new lawnmower, or I'm going to bring this person to justice by having them help me track them down. But, like, that's an easy solution. It's the same concept as what we do with police, but it's voluntary. Like I said, there could be just a company that that employs a bunch of private investigators for specifically that purpose.
Yeah. Or I'll be my own investigator and start knocking on my neighbor's door. Did you see? Well, I don't want people around here stealing their stuff.
Exactly.
So do you guys want to get on board with me and go investigate? And then you get to the point you find the lawnmower. You either get it back or you got to take the guy to court. That's kind of what the court system was set up for. It's like, hey, we're having a dispute. We need a third party to look at the facts. And I have a witness saying that they saw this person steal my lawnmower, so I want it back.
Right. That's why things happen in civil court, right?
Yeah.
That's why if you and I have an issue, we don't ever go to the district court. We go to the civil court. We go to the superior court.
Right.
Because the district court is a fake kangaroo court. It's not a court of record. No. Right. The court of record is that's another great example. The court of record. If I have a felony in the state of Washington, depending on the felony, if it's against, like, a drug felony doesn't count because there's not a victim to that. But if there's a felony where I committed a crime where there's a victim, I go to superior court, not to the district court.
Right.
So that shows you right there. That's the actual court of record.
Right.
Otherwise, I'd go to the district court. So yeah, you're right. That's something that really needs to be brought up in our society. Is if you believe in our government and our Constitution, the way it was set up is for the government is there so that if Simon and I have a dispute, it can be the arbiter of that dispute, at least through the court system.
Right.
Like, the court system has no other purpose other than to be the arbiter of disputes.
Correct.
It's not a dispute when the state says, I've got a gun and I don't think you should drive 65 in a 60-mile-an-hour zone, and I'm going to take money from you unless, whatever. Like, that's not a dispute. That's a crime.
And then when you're, like, in the building and in court, like, the judge is like, the court's decision. And I'm like, well, where's the court? Who's the court? Oh, you're the court? Oh, you're the man playing the court? I'm like, dude, it's another illogical, childish fallacy. Like, it's stupid.
Right. Yeah. Actually, if you look in, can't remember which one it is. I'll try to get it, throw it up here as a link on the screen. But if you look up the U.S. code for like the definition of court, court can be anywhere. There's no specific place. But yes, court isn't a person. Court is
The
action of the judge handling the business of like the court system.
Right.
So like, how can the court make a decision? Like that's the action.
And then let's just man is valuable. Like we're not perfect. So like there's some guy up there in a cross-dressing way on an elevated thing dictating, well, this or that, or interpreting what words were put on a piece of paper and really screwing with your life with no victim. Like there's no victim. The state cannot be the victim. The state only exists on a piece of paper. The court only exists on a piece of paper. So you're going from 3-dimensional down to 2-dimensional, and that shows you like how childish it is.
Right. I know I'm going to butcher this, but Clint Richardson, I was listening to one of his videos just the other day, and he kind of brought that up. He's like, a person is a thing, like it's an entity, right?
It's a noun.
It's exactly. It's on paper.
Yeah.
But like a man,
person, place, or thing.
A man, I actually exist. I'm not on paper. I am a real thing. I'm tangible. I'm like this wall. I can be touched and moved. And so anyways, getting off on a side tangent. I don't need to get off on that too much. But my point is, as a solution, we can do this on our own without having government do it and be much more efficient. Just like Simon said about going to your neighborhood, hey, my lawnmower was stolen. Did you guys see anything? I mean, just that action right there creates a community involvement where now, if my neighbors know, oh, Corey's lawnmower was stolen, man, I better watch out. Maybe my weed eater's getting taken next, so now they're going to be watching out. I'm already watching. So it creates the community we want, really, where we're kind of looking out for each other, but not through like government, through actual just voluntary interactions.
Right. Yeah.
Real quick though, I want to bring that up. I've had a few people point this out when I talk to them about being an anarchist, and they're still like clinging to this government saves everything. I've had actually several people tell me like I don't have the ability to give up on humanity. That's why I can't take this leap and do like what you've done as an anarchist. And my argument back to them is an anarchist like cares about humanity way more than a statist. Like we have to. I cannot survive and thrive as an anarchist alone. I can't provide for myself all the stuff I need. So in order for me to get it, like right now in the system we have, if Simon provides plumbing and I need plumbing in my house, I can literally treat Simon like a piece of crap in my daily life, but still just go to him and be like, hey man, I want you to come do my plumbing. And if he says no, I go, oh, you're discriminating against me. Oh. And then I can force him or try to force him, make him spend all kinds of money defending his ability to not have to do work for me. Whereas in a society without that, where it's free, I can go to Simon and say, dude, I need some plumbing done. And he'll be like, you're an a-hole. I'm not doing your plumbing. So then when I keep going around trying to get work done and everybody says, no, dude, you're an a-hole. I'm not working for you. Now I got to start going, maybe I need to be nicer to Simon so he'll come do some work. So this idea that I'm giving up on humanity because I'm ditching government is completely illogical and the opposite of what we're doing. It's I believe more in humanity.
Yeah,
I have to embrace it.
That's what I was going to bring up. Like the fact that we don't want government to be controlling us or need to be controlling us for safety gives us like a huge like hope in humanity. Like everybody thinks that if there's no cops, people would be running around going crazy, killing each other. I'm like, nobody thinks like that. The fact that we don't have the drive-by shooting while Hoop Fest is going on shows humanity is good. You know, if words on a piece of paper doesn't stop people from stealing, defrauding, hurting other people. Like, they're going to do it anyways. And then people have said, well, they're going to do it more without police. Right. Yes and no. I mean, but you guys just want more police and more government. That hasn't worked. Go talk to your parents, your grandparents, and see the progression of like what's been going on. It's been getting worse. Hasn't been getting better. So let's at least try it out. Let's give it a shot. I mean, we don't know until we have the opportunity to actually be free. We're not free. If anybody's wondering that. We never had the opportunity. So like, listen, Let's at least try it. I'd rather have dangerous freedom than, I don't know, delusional slavery of safety.
Right. Well, to be fair, I think we would all acknowledge that if, like, today, all of a sudden government just disappeared, yes, there would be a period of chaos. Because there are people that think they need to rule over other people's lives, and those people would immediately jump in and go, great, government's gone, I get to be the new authoritarian, and they would try to control everything. But it would be up to the rest of us to fight that off, and yes, that would create chaos, I'm not going to lie. So I don't know that just leaving it would be the best answer, but eventually that's where we need to get to. It would be nice if we could have some kind of transition.
We got to grow up.
Right.
I mean, technically.
Yeah, before even any of that starts,
Yeah,
90% of people just need to start being adults.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm still a teenager, everybody.
Right. We're working on it.
it.
Simon and I will be the first to admit that we are not perfect.
Yeah, no way.
I would say both of us might have a reputation of being kind of, not just amongst our friends maybe, or people that know us, of being maybe kind of, I don't really know the term without using some bad language, but
Rambunctious.
that and maybe kind of harsh. But at the same time, like, I'm just harsh because being, like, brutally honest.
Yeah, right. Brutally honest.
But at the same time, like, I'm the same way to myself. Like, I won't be, like, as harsh and honest to you if I won't do it to myself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I might
yeah,
have to
yeah.
have someone else point it out to me first. Like, you might have to say, hey, Corey. But I will go, yes, I was being an idiot. So
Yeah,
we will
right.
be the first to admit we are still at least adolescents or, like you said, teenagers trying to work our way up there. We're not perfect,
Yeah,
but we're
yeah.
trying. Okay, so to move on to our next topic, this is something I've covered on the channel for a while. David Novak, who was shot back in 2019 in January by the Spokane police. Just a quick recap of what happened. Basically, all the public records requests I've done, there was a neighborhood bully, a drug dealer. He had been causing some problems. David was a big, strong man, and he kind of maybe had a little bit of liquor one night and decided to go stand up to the neighborhood bullies. And so he did. An argument ensued. Afterwards, the neighborhood bullies called 911 and reported that David Novak had a gun and was out firing shots. And he didn't have a gun, never had a gun. He had a baseball bat at one point. I don't even know if he had the baseball bat when he was confronting them. But anyways, that doesn't matter. The point is, when the cops showed up, after the 911 call was made, Brandon Rankin was there immediately. And 11 seconds after one of the officers shouted for David to stop, he continued to walk into his house. Maybe he didn't hear him, we don't know. But 11 seconds after that command, he was shot. So not very much time for David to kind of collect his thoughts and figure out what to do. And he was shot in the back going into his house. I don't know how you can shoot someone in the back and say that they were a threat, especially when you've got Bearcats and all this equipment to come just surround his house and do what you need to get him out if he's a threat. So anyways, that's what happened. His family holds a protest the 7th of every month at the Spokane County Courthouse until they find justice for David in his death. He was murdered by Brandon Rankin of the Spokane police. I don't mind saying that. And so the city of Spokane on Monday, they approved an additional $200,000 to fund the defense of Brandon Rankin, the officer that shot David Novak. And so that brings the total now to, I don't know exactly, I think it's about $550,000. That they haven't paid all of that, but they've at least paid the initial $250,000 out because they had to request more. So they approved $200K.
Right, that's great. That's an insane amount of money to where it's like the police is already getting paid for stolen money. They really don't obviously provide a service. They have a license to murder, and now you're paying again more tax money for a free defense. Nothing like, and he has qualified immunity basically. I mean, because if this was anybody else, we would already been in jail for murder. So how do they have special privileges that we don't, being in a costume and a badge? Doesn't make any sense. Right. If we had law written down specifically for these things, like battery is unwanted touch. So anytime a cop touches you, that's battery. So I don't want them touching me. So how did they get these special privileges? And there needs to be accountability. I mean, these guys should not have guns. I'm sorry. It's outrageous.
They shouldn't even have a nightstick.
No.
No, It's really out of hand. Well, I guess kind of what I wanted to bring up is to me, that it was a murder because, like I said, we have Bearcats. What's the other big thing that the sheriff and I can't remember what it's called. I don't know. I have a video of it.
Like
when the
SWAT.
Yeah, the MRAP. There you go. Yeah. So we have all this equipment between the county and the city. And rather than just show up and just allow David to go back into his house and then say, hey, look, let's get the Bearcat here, which they did later, and they moved the Bearcat in just like they would have if he was alive, when he was already dead, bleeding out on his porch. So they could have done exactly what they did, just left him alive, and then sat there and over the microphone said, you need to come out, we have the house surrounded. But the problem was he was already laying there bleeding out when they were saying that. How's he going to come out? So they should have done that first, given him the opportunity to come out, and then they can send their SWAT team in there, guys that are trained and have all the gear and all that. And I know it's scary to do that, but that's what they're trained for. That's why they took that job. Maybe that's not why they took it, but they took that job. That's their job. It's like if I'm a baker and so I go to work and it's not like I just don't bake that day. No, dude, that's my job. That's what I get paid for. So why are these police, instead of doing their job correctly, no matter how scary it might be, they're just shooting people in the back, no less. And then now we're spending over $500K as the city of Spokane to defend a murderer,
Right.
to prove to the city, to the citizens, that we need to have these people. When it would have been so much better, even if you want to consider the whole Black Lives Matter movement, the whole violence against people, that whole liberal agenda thing. If you want to consider that, how much of a message would it send to your community as if a city, you said, you know what, we did screw up. This is not perfect, our system.
Yeah.
And you know what? We figure we would have spent maybe $500,000 in defense of this officer. So I know it's not much, but as a city, we would like to give $500,000 to pay for the funeral services, maybe set up some kind of fund for David in his name, something like that, to promote something good out of it, rather than defend a murder and hide the fact that it was a murder, and to convince the citizenry that it's okay to be murdered. That if one of these thugs shows up with qualified immunity and you're not doing anything, you better listen to what the heck they say or you're getting shot. Back, front, it doesn't matter.
Even if you do listen to them. I mean, the risk factor of you being shot by police, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but we could probably throw that in the link too. It's astronomical.
I haven't looked it up for a while, but I know in 2017 was when I started this channel, the end of 2017. And so for the year, I got the stats for 2016.
Okay. And
in 2016, just an interaction with a law enforcement officer, being pulled over, saying hi to him, walking down the street, having a conversation with him. A person, a man, is 8 times more likely to die as a result of that interaction than a cop. So who's more a threat? That's why I like to tell, when I first started this and I would do First Amendment audits, if someone came, called the cops, I would, dude, why are you putting both of our lives at risk now?
Right.
You and I are now 8 times more likely to die.
Right. I'd rather go skydiving, dude.
Right. I want to do something fun.
And I'm scared of heights.
So, yeah, there's that whole thing. The other aspect of this, though, is let's look at the family. The Novak family, I have a pretty good personal relationship with them now. I can't speak for them, but I would be pretty comfortable to say that scenario I just brought up, where if the city said, hey, we'd like to just give the family $500,000 to establish some kind of fund for David to remember him and do something positive with, they would be completely different about this. I almost guarantee it from the conversations I've had with her. She used to work for the city as a dispatch person. So, I mean, she knows what goes on in the city. That was a lot. She knows what's going on in the city. And she's been devastated by this. I mean, she used to believe in this system, and now it's really shown her how messed up it is. So there's that. But then also, think about the family is having to come up to fight all this and bring justice and try to bring Officer Rankin to justice for killing their son. They had to pay for that all out of pocket.
Correct.
I mean, they don't. they can't just go to like wherever community they live in and say, you know what, we're going to bring out our guns. We're going to go to every neighborhood, every neighbor, and y'all are going to give us 20% of your income so that we can be like. They don't get to do that, but the city does. The city goes, well, we murdered someone, and we need to defend that, so everybody's going to have to pony up some extra money.
Right,
and if you don't, we're coming with our guns to get it.
And then here's the other thing, like, what kind of training are they getting? I think me and you know that kind of training, because what was that guy's name that came over here?
Yeah, the sheep, what's his buddy? Not the sheepdog or whatever.
Yeah, but he's pretty aggressive, basically, like, shoot first, ask questions.
Oh, yeah, his training is the reason Novak is shot.
So we get that kind of training. What happened to like de-escalation and like a real investigation? Like not like I'm scared for my life. I got my gun out, and
right.
I mean, you could wait. All kinds of things could happen. You could wait. You have spotlights to actually look and see what is in his hands. And like, okay, dude, you have nothing on you. So let's have a conversation real quick. We got a call. Like, you know, what's going on over here? Oh yeah. They probably knew who the other guy was, and
probably
might be the bully. You're right, like maybe the bully, and already had encounters with him, so they should have already known what was going on. Plus, the bully calls the police after being confronted, so that's kind of weird. It's weakness, I guess.
Right.
But de-escalation, like I mean. Half the time, these cops are so jacked up, probably adrenaline going like, you know, whatever. Listen to some Metallica on the way.
Oh,
I don't know. I'm just messing around.
No, you can see that on the body cam when they're driving to where they shot him. Mm-hmm. Dude, one of them, as he's driving there, like he's got his sirens out or whatever. He goes through a red light. He starts yelling at people on the road for yelling. You can tell, yes, you're completely right. He's getting himself jacked up on the way there.
Yeah.
He's literally yelling at people who were doing nothing wrong.
Yeah, okay.
So you're totally right.
Yeah, and like whatever, man. I mean, you chose the job. Stop being a baby about it, dude. Do real investigations, solve real crime, and stop killing people. That's all we're asking.
Right.
I mean, if that's out of scope for everybody, then, you know, I don't know what to tell you.
Right. Well, like, to your point there, I remember as a kid watching movies, you know, the programming we all received, and I never once saw them, like, when there was a hostage situation or in that type of situation, I never once saw them, like, show up to the house or the building and just, oh, get him! No, right. They stood out there with them, hey, man, talk to us. What do you need? We know you're suffering right now, you know? Like, so if they'd had that conversation, David Novak probably would have drunkenly said, like, hey, David Bowie! You know, whatever. And then we could start having a conversation. But yeah, you're right. Like, instead of bringing in all the equipment and having an investigation and trying to figure out what's wrong, they're just going off the word of someone they don't know. I mean, anyone can call in and, like, if I didn't like Simon, I can just call and be like, dude, there's a guy sitting next to me on the bench right now. He keeps flashing a gun at me. And the cops are going to come in, and I can just be like, right. He's getting shot because they're going to be like, don't move. And as soon as he moves, boom, boom, boom.
Right. When there is no guns. And then after that happens, he's not arrested for a false police report.
Yeah, it's a cover-up. Exactly. Like, so in that David Novak thing, 100%, there should have been something for them filing a false police report. They made a false claim. He never had a gun. His neighbors that were witnessing what happened.
Yeah,
verified.
You're occupying 911 emergency services for false reporting. I mean, this is the other thing. Like, there's no accountability for anybody anymore, except for like if you drive without tabs or like, I mean, just
right. Well, yeah, that's one of the. I've been hearing this commercial lately on the radio a lot. It's from the Department of Homeland Security. They call it "What Makes You CSA." So they're not going to hold people that call 911 accountable and making false claims because they want us. They want us to, if you see something that I think is strange, it doesn't matter if it is strange. I mean, I think Simon wearing his hat backward is strange. Okay. So should I call in and say, oh my God, there's this guy over here and he's really suspicious. Like, they want us to call in and tell on, instead of me just going over to Simon and be like, hey, dude, you look kind of shady, or whatever, having a conversation. Right, they want us to call in and make them the people that handles it, instead of us just dealing with our...
Well, here's the other thing. People get involved when they shouldn't get involved, and they don't get involved when they should get involved.
Right.
That's the problem. And they're throwing fear everywhere. So it's like you're looking out your little window, like ready to be like, oh, there's that dude walking down the street.
Right?
Yeah. Like, and the fact that leave people alone until you see them doing something wrong, then speak out. And then if you can't do it by yourself, get your community behind it. And last scenario, I guess if you're really in danger, call the cops. But maybe 8 times.
Well, and think about that though. If you got to call the cops, like you're already in danger. Like,
Right.
how are they like? So you just gonna sit there in danger for an extra like 10, 20 minutes? However long it takes them to show
Right,
up? Like,
yeah.
"Ooh, hold off on shooting me. Got some defense coming.
Time out, bro.
Right.
Time out.
So I mean, yes, I'm gonna say protect yourself however you can if you feel
Yeah, for
threatened,
sure.
but just keep that in mind that if you're really feel threatened somehow, like bodily injury or something, you might want to call the cops, but maybe consider another option as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyways, we can move on from that topic, I guess, unless you have anything else to bring up about that.
No. All right. I think we bag on cops enough.
Right. But he gets that. So the next topic I'd like to talk about is, I believe it was in this most recent Monday City Council meeting as well in Spokane. They talked about, they approved a property tax holiday for people who are building, instead of building just like a house on your property, to build high-density residential buildings. And so this kind of just goes in with the whole, Agenda 2030 thing. And I'm guessing that this is probably happening in multiple cities across the country. I don't think it's probably just a Spokane thing.
Yeah, there's no way.
I mean, I know every city I drive in, whether it's Missoula, Montana, Bozeman, Montana. Bozeman's a town of like 40,000, and they got apartments going up everywhere. It's the same there as it is
They're
here.
everywhere.
Yeah. So
Every corner in Spokane, they can get an
Right.
apartment or a fourplex on. It's going up right now.
right. So they're offering a 3-year property tax holiday. I did kind of look at some of the details. I can't. I'll throw a link in here to the description of this video to it, so I always do. But I can't remember exactly if it was like an entire property tax like holiday where you have to pay any for 3 years, or if it was just like you pay less. But either way, where my mind goes is I know Agenda 2030, all this stuff, own nothing, be happy, you're not going to live in the rural areas, you're going to be in cities. So that's where my mind goes. But then I start thinking like, okay, so what brought the city of Spokane, what made them forward this idea? Like, who was sitting there going, you know what? I think we need to give a property tax holiday for high-density residential. That's where we need to go in Spokane. Did that just come? Did they just grab that out of the blue, or was there some? I just about guarantee you there is some federal government program.
Oh yeah.
Because that's a loss. Think about it. These are all corporations. That's a loss of income for a corporation to say we're not going to collect property tax.
Right.
Because the cities, municipalities, that's where they get their money. It's property tax. Sales tax mainly goes to the state, the county.
Right.
Income tax goes to state, federal government. It's property tax where cities make their money. So they're losing their income. They lost a decent amount of income. The state and the cities did through sales tax, at least in Washington, from businesses shutting down through COVID. So they're kind of hurting for money, but at the same time, they just received, $80-some million through the American Rescue Plan, so they're not. But, maybe that's one of the part of accepting the American Rescue Plan is you have to forward this idea of high-density residential buildings and things. These are the details that I asked Mayor Woodward about, like, what are the strings attached to this? And, well, who cares? Why would I'd be crazy to not accept this money.
That's a quote. That was a quote.
Right? Yeah, that was literally her quote. So,
no, you are crazy. It's okay.
So, like I said, if they're giving up their income, to me, it has to come from somewhere. Like, that would, Walmart can't just say, like, you know what, today, everybody that comes in and wants to buy wheat bread is getting it all free. You got to pay for it for the next 3 years. You know what I mean?
Well, depending on taxes and the way you structure taxes,
Right.
They could write all that off. So
Right.
they could. They're like $1 billion company. So
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
Right. Well, then
So-
I guess my point is, but the city isn't losing money over it, right? Because, like you said, if they write it off,
these people don't lose money.
they're going to get reimbursed somehow, whether it's through some federal grant. Like, it's just where the money's coming from is somewhere else. The federal government's going to steal it from us and then give it to the city.
Right.
That's
right,
my point.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, they don't lose money. There's definitely a purpose behind this. And one of the purposes could be that, like, oh, yeah, you're deferred for 3 years, but, like, when those 3 years, like, you have to pay it all in one lump sum. I mean, it could be something like that.
Right, yeah.
So then the property's foreclosed on, and then somebody like BlackRock comes and buys it up. I mean, I don't know.
Right. Well, yeah, that would fit perfectly into the agenda, too.
Right.
So that's... we don't really need to focus on this. That just brings up another part of it I was talking about on the way here this morning. They were talking about real estate. It's slowing down. That one of the analysts said that she didn't think the bubble was going to burst and prices are going to come down like they did back in 2008 necessarily. But she just thinks it's going to slow down. I kind of tend to agree with her a little bit, but mainly what I thought was interesting is she said since March, when the interest rates have started to hike, adjustable rate mortgages have really become popular again. They've gone up 21% since March, the amount of people getting those. And anyone that paid attention, Simon knows a lot about real estate. He's kind of in the industry a little bit. So anyone who paid attention in 2008, I mean, that was like the major problem. It's adjustable rate mortgages. Like, how does that seem smart to you if you're like an individual? It's the whole adult child thing. Like, let's stop thinking about, I want this house and that's what I have to have. So anything I need to be a slave and get into it.
Right.
Like, let's think about that. If rates are going up and the reason, like, think about the reasons they're saying. Like, this is Paul Volcker stuff from back in the 80s, man. Like, they're slowing the economy on purpose by raising interest rates.
Right. Yeah.
So, do you think in the next 5 years with your adjustable rate mortgage, do you think those rates are going to come down, or do you think they're going to go up?
They go up and they stay up.
Right.
I had one on a rental property.
Right. Okay.
And they stay up. They don't actually fluctuate with.
So kind of like same things there. Even like with the property tax thing, like you're saying, okay, so maybe it's a holiday, and then 3 years you got to pay it all.
Yeah.
And then, well, shit, now I'm bankrupt. I don't have that.
Yeah. The other thing with 08, they were doing adjustable arms, whatever it was. So when it adjusted, it like doubled or tripled the price, I guess, on the mortgage, something like that. And then a lot of people took out equity line of credit, right? And on the equity line of credit, I think in the terminology of the paperwork, I don't have one in front of me, but basically they could call that at any time. And when they call that, like, let's just say you got an equity line of credit of 40 grand, but you only use 20, but they can call that 20 anytime they want. And if you don't have that 20, then they possess your house, or you have to sell it, or you're foreclosing. So that's another thing that a lot of people don't understand about HELOCs, I guess, right? They call them. And it's dangerous. Like, when you're playing with money and you're going into debt for, like, tangible things, it's going to be a disaster.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this usury in general, loaning money with interest. I mean, to me, when that first was introduced to me, actually, I dated a Muslim woman, and in Islam, they don't believe in usury. So that was the first time it was introduced. And I was kind of like, wow, that's crazy. Why would you lend someone some money and not expect some interest back? Like, that's insane. And then, like, as I started thinking about it logically, it's like, well, wait a minute. If I'm in a community and I want, like, if I'm like a community-minded person rather than someone who wants to control everything, like, why wouldn't it, like, if I see you or you see me and I'm trying to improve my life and I have the resources to help you do that, and I know that you having a better life is also going to benefit me and help me have a better life, why wouldn't I want to say, look, dude, I've got some resources. Why don't you use these?
Right.
Because it's going to help me in the end.
Right.
Whereas what we have in the banking system is it's going to help me in the end because I'm still giving you the resources and helping you better yourself, but it's also going to be even better for me because I get to take more money from you in the end too.
Well, the other thing in the banking system, I think technically they can't loan money and they can't loan other people's money. Right. And they didn't put any kind of resource into actually making the money how we go to work and make money, so they didn't lend anything because they had nothing to lend. When you signed the note, your signature created that money, and then they just put it on a computer screen and transferred it all around. But there is no original work ethic or currency, like your current, right, going into creating something. So it's like, and then they make interest off of that, and that's probably where banks make most of their money. And then they sell it to an investor, your loan. So it's like it's complete fallacy. It's really weird. And if people woke up to the banking system, I don't know what would happen. Hopefully, a huge voluntary kind of interaction would go on.
Right. Yeah, I would say the banking system is one of the things that keeps us enslaved probably the most.
It's money. It's
Well,
all
yeah.
money,
Yeah, because we're sold and programmed that we need things.
Right.
And then we have to go earn money to go get those because only this is accepted.
Correct. Yeah. And most of those things are like looking at the rich and famous, like all these actors. If nobody watched movies, they wouldn't have the mansion. Like, we're spending our time watching other people live lives and wishing we could have that life instead of looking at like what's right in front of us.
Right.
I think that's part of one of our huge problems here in society.
I would agree. It's always like, they always say the term keeping up with the Joneses. That's very real. I mean, that's, in my opinion, that's really what drives a lot of our, I don't know if I want to call it greed, but our love of money, I guess, is better word.
Consumption.
Yes, there you go.
Goods.
It's like, I have to be as good as my neighbor. And like, since I've become a voluntarist, that's one of the things that I think has been the opposite for me is like, I used to have like the cookie cutter house with the nice green lawn and all that, and now I don't want that. I want to be the one where people drive by his house. Oh, what's with that guy, man?
I don't know what he means by that. Hopefully, like have a garden instead of a lawn and just not trash everywhere. I don't know what he means by that, so we'll play that one by ear, everybody.
Well, maybe a spaceship lawn art in
There
the
you
middle
go,
of the
man.
garden.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, something interesting.
Yeah. All right, now, not as much as trash here. Although if that's what you want, more power to you on your property.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the adjustable rate thing. It's just when I heard that, I was like, who in their right mind that lived through 2008 would jump onto one right now, especially?
I see it all the time.
After prices already shot up so much, now they're going to
then you have the other problem. It's like, okay, I'm tapped out at $550K. I bought this house, so I'm locked into all this. I can make the monthly payment. Now the house is worth $900,000, so your property tax goes up. So your monthly payment, you're getting tapped out. Right? You may lose that house. And most of these people, like the houses I work in, brand new house, 2 brand new cars. I mean, I don't even know. I don't know how they do it. I have no idea.
A lot of debt.
Yeah. And it's all about the monthly payment, which is.
The other thing I see right now is I see people not willing to give up their American dream lifestyle, no matter what they see coming in the future. I mean, do you know anyone who is like optimistic about the future of this country? We'll just say next 10 years.
Yeah, I don't even think we're gonna last 10 years.
I don't. But I don't even know anyone, like one person in my life who I was just like, hey, how do you feel about the next 10 years? Do you think good stuff's gonna happen? I don't know one person that would say yes.
Oh, well, I know a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, dude, like this economy's never slowing down. One guy I know is a plumber, and he's just running like 4 trucks and hiring more dudes. It's like, oh, it's never gonna slow down. And I'm like, this is
literally what every expert is telling us. There's food supply shortages. All these problems that people are still just banging like it's gonna.
Well, here's the other issue. Like, okay, like this guy's doing really good. He's growing his company in, I think, a dangerous time because he has some kind of, maybe he doesn't. Like, I think it's a moral, ethical, like kind of thing. You're hiring these people. These people have families, and then what are you gonna do when like you're gonna let all these guys go and be like, oh, sorry, I gave you false opium, and then take care of yourself? Because that's, I mean,
right.
Which I wouldn't like be mad at somebody for that. Yeah, you have to take care of yourself first, but maybe the things you're doing right now is like you see dollar signs and you're growing, and you're not looking at the logistics of like these people have families too. So that's another issue,
right? I think it's kind of a broader solution. Like, okay, I take care of, like, in the end, I take care of myself by making sure I have a good community of people around me. You know what I mean? Because then if something happens to me, if I'm a good person and I've done good by nature, I don't know very many people, at least I don't associate with many people, I guess, that by nature don't really want to be like compassionate towards their fellow humans.
Yeah.
I don't know very many people in life, honestly, that aren't like that. I mean, I know our society has taken away that compassion because government has said they're the only ones that can supply compassion. You see that all the time. People getting arrested for handing out food and parts to homeless people.
Yeah, like, what are you doing?
Right?
No, there's a city ordinance that you can't do it. You can't feed people. Right. Like, dude, go pound sand on that one, bro. Like, you're an idiot. Like, go do something real.
Well, that's like, we did it last year a couple of times. We went downtown here and handed out some food. And the place we went to, we had to do it had to be potluck because the health district said, you can't cook food and hand it out.
Right.
So then it was like, what? And these people, this guy was a religious guy. And he's telling me, we had this conversation. I said, wait a minute, didn't Jesus, come and turn over the tables of people that were corrupt and doing this stuff and saying you can't help people? And he only did that he didn't just go do it like the Romans. He went into churches that were working with the Romans and did that. And I literally just looked back at him like, that's what you're doing, dude. If Jesus was here, he'd walk into your ministry right now and overturn your tables because instead of going out and feeding people. The reason I bring this up is because he stopped for a while. Because what they did, the county said, okay, you can do a potluck, meaning you can cook the food at home and bring it in and hand it out, but you can't cook it here.
Right.
And that was their solution.
Needed a food handle.
That was their solution
license,
temporarily, yeah. And then later they came, the food handler's permit.
Yeah. And
then later they came and said, oh, no, you can't do the potluck thing anymore. We're just going to have to shut you down until you get a permit to have food here in this building.
Imagine that they go, you have to have a permit to feed your family.
Right. Yeah.
So I have to get a permit to go to the store to buy groceries to handle food properly to feed my family. That's basically the same thing.
Totally. There was so much wrong with it. The last time I went, that's when I had the conversation with them, and I was like, dude, your tables would be being overturned right now because you're complying with the Romans. You are the church complying with the Romans. You're exactly what you just told me Jesus was overturning their tables. So I told him that straight up. And he basically was like, well, yeah, I guess you're kind of right, but I'm going to keep feeding the homeless this way.
Right.
Or not feeding them.
Yeah,
and so literally that day was the last day I went there. He gave me a big sack, me and my daughter, a sack full of bologna and mayonnaise, white bread, Wonder Bread sandwiches, Ziploc bags. And he told me if I wanted, I could go hand those. I could walk around downtown and hand those out. I said, yeah, that's what I came to do. I'd like to do that. I don't want to stay in here and preach to people. And as I was leaving with the bag of sandwiches, he made the point to tell me, make sure I wasn't wearing anything that had the name of their church on it.
Yeah, don't worry. We don't want to be affiliated.
That's pretty much what my response was. No worries there, man. I don't want to ever have any affiliation with you again. And I haven't gone back since.
It's kind of sad, but what do you do?
It is. Well, it was disturbing to me to literally have this guy acknowledge, yeah, you're right, and then say, but I just want to be able to feed homeless people. I look at him. Well, I got a bag of sandwiches right here. Let's go, dude.
Right.
So, anyways, that's
part of the 501c3 church.
Yeah.
Basically, you can only preach what the government wants you to preach. You're not even supposed to talk bad about the government, which is really service corporations. You're supposed to be providing service, but they never do. They just take it.
Well, and like you said on the food handler's permit, I think that really fired me up too, is because we went into this little orientation and learned about all their process and all this, and they said, "Oh yeah, you got to get a food handler's permit." And I basically was like, "Oh, I'm out right there." And my friend kind of talked to him and told him why, and they kind of, "Oh, okay, we understand that." So he actually invited me back and said, "You don't have to get it. Don't worry about it." Blah blah blah. Well, then he basically said,
but then you actually
he wanted me to get it. He said this was, but don't worry, we'll pay the $20 for it. And that's what really made me, whoa, wait a minute now. Not only do I have to ask permission to hand out food,
you gotta pay.
But then I also, in order to get a permission slip to do that, I have to pay $20 to the, are you kidding me, man? So that was a major, if I had to have, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, government is already paid for. That's what taxes are, right?
Yeah.
So why should I have to pay for a permit? If I'm going to go along with this concept. It's already paid for. Why do I have to go into the office that's already paid for? The person who's already getting paid with my tax dollars, the paper and the printer and all the stuff that already is paid for, and pay for it.
Yeah.
I should just be able to go and say, I want this permit. Here's my name. Give it to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't have to do that at all, but my point is,
right,
if I'm
yeah.
going along with their
Yeah.
little system,
Yeah, it's always money, dude.
Right?
It's just all money.
yeah, take it from us everywhere, man.
I know. And then going back to property taxes, obviously there is no private property because you're renting the property. If you don't pay your property tax, then they can take your property. Just ponder that one. And then if you even actually look up the rules of like how they get property tax, they don't follow their own like rules of like how they're supposed to assess your property. And no one's taking them to task on that. And then they're taxing you on a fictitious number. Like,
Right?
it's not a real number. They're like, well, we're assessing it as this. Well, great. Right.
Right?
And if you're assessing this, then write me a check and it's yours. But that never happens either. If you think it's worth this, then pay me the money, dude, and I'll bounce. You know, they don't buy properties. They just tell you this is what it's worth. Otherwise, we're going to take it.
Right? Well, we've been at about an hour. Do you have any other enlightening things to inform anyone about?
No.
All right. Well, I guess we'll close up this show, y'all. Thanks for joining us. If you haven't already, start preparing for bad things in the future. Start preparing to be able to feed your family without being able to go to the store. I would look into what plants you can eat that grow around your neighborhood. Just saying. Anything else you can do to kind of prepare for bad times? Well, here, one more thing real quick I want to talk about, man. So when this whole Russia-Ukraine thing started, one of the first things the West did was remove Russia from the SWIFT payment system, right?
Yeah.
So that's like the banking system so that banks in Russia and the United States and Europe and all that can communicate, exchange money and all that. So they cut Russia out. Oh, you can't do this. So just like everything else that's happened to this, I just saw an article yesterday actually, that Russia is developing a blockchain version of SWIFT. If you guys can't see the writing on the wall, the West is being swept away under the rug, everything that we have,
destroyed.
and something new is being created.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but a blockchain version of SWIFT is way better than, as far as a ledger, not track. I'm not talking about government tracking us all. Just like, if I'm an institution, a ledger on a blockchain is way better than whatever system we're in. Guaranteed, because it's always there. I can always go check on every single transaction.
Right. Well, this goes back to like we're the only species on the planet that has to pay to live.
Right?
It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. You guys have no idea. Like every city's the same. They have the same stores, the same crap. Like there's nothing different. That's why they call it a culture, because you are in a cult. You do the same thing every day. You get up every day, do the same stupid job. Most of you probably hate your jobs. But you're doing the same thing because you're in debt and want things. It's craziness.
Right, yeah. Why do you go to that job? It's because you want to be able to keep this big fancy house that looks a certain way and is in this neighborhood, or you want to have this truck or this car. That's most of us. That's why we keep going, right?
Yeah. And who cares about Russia and Ukraine? Who cares about the United States?
Right.
All you idiots out there, like, I'm American. Yeah, well, there's Mexican American because they're in America. There's Canadian Americans because they're in America. Like, hello, you're stuck in the United States, and it's a trap. So it's like you got to start thinking like an adult and logically. You're not an American.
Yes. And we need to all stop thinking about us being in an individual country or having an individual government. If it's not clear now, every single government is controlled by one operating structure.
Right. And to prove that, they all shut down the whole world for COVID.
Right?
Just about every country did it. So it's a giant oligarchy laughing at you individually. It's kind of funny, right? You want to argue about police. You want to argue about policy. You want to argue about Roe versus Wade. You want to argue about all kinds of just dumb stuff that doesn't even matter.
Right.
The fact is, no man or woman has the right to control another man or woman, especially for words written on a piece of paper. Are you kidding me? So now, like, your whole emphasis, your God, is government and words written on a piece of paper that they don't even follow themselves. We've already proven it. So, yeah, it's time to wake up and start taking care of each other and neighbors. Let government go have their wars.
Right. So I would issue a challenge in conclusion after that little session there. Simon saying that we are the only animals, excuse me, on this earth or beings that have to pay to live. So I would challenge everyone to let's try to pick one small aspect of your life that you pay for right now and try to not pay for it, at least not as much. I mean, you could start with the simplest food and trying to grow your own food or going and foraging for food. A couple weekends ago, we were up at Gerard's place checking out his garden, and we're just walking through it, and I started picking out, like, weeds. Oh, you can eat this, you can eat this. And we started just sampling a few of them right there in the garden. So educate yourself in those ways. Just find some way that you can start living not free as in without a master. Do that as well, but living without having to pay for one aspect of your life. See if you can start doing it. Just try to cut it out in one little, even part of it. That's my challenge.
Right, I agree.
And until then, until next time, remember to self-govern. All right, man.
That was pretty good.
That was a good one. No, you can see that on the body cam. They're driving too, so they shot. One of them, as he's driving there, like as sirens out there, he goes through the red light. He starts yelling at people like on the road. And you can tell he seems like he's getting himself back up on the way there. He's literally yelling at people who's doing nothing wrong. So you're totally right.
And like, what? I mean, you chose some cops about being fake about it. Do real investigation, solve real crime, and stop killing people. That's all we're asking. If that's how to scope everything, then yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
Like, to your point there, I remember as a kid watching that games, programming, receiving, and I never once saw like when a hostage situation, in that type of situation, I never once saw like show up to the house or the building and just, well, get him. No, they stood up there and said, hey man, talk to us. What do you need? You know you're suffering right now, you know? So if they had that conversation, they know that probably drunkenly said, like, hey, here's the boy! Whatever. And then just have a conversation, yeah, you're right. Like, instead of bringing in all the equipment and having an investigation and trying to figure out what's wrong, just going off the word of someone they don't know. I mean, anyone can call in and I didn't like your sign and I was contact you. The guy's sitting next to me on the bench right now, he's just flashing a gun at me, and the cops are going to come in and I just go, he's getting shot. He's ready to be like, go! Boom, boom, boom.